On this week's episode, we talk about personalities again.
Yes, we are revisiting our episode from almost 4 years ago to give you an update on our personalities and what has changed.
So stick around.
Hello and welcome to Rare with Flair,
The podcast where two best friends with the same rare disease are living our best lives. I'm your host, Cassandra.
and I'm your host, Casey.
Hello.
Cass, you're not really living your best life, maybe, at the
Really
moment.
not. So I'm sure you can hear by my voice, but I have had the flu this week, and it's really gotten me, man. Like,
Oh, I know, I feel so bad, and you're rallying for our listeners.
I am, because I need any kind of stimulation in my life. I have been home for like 4 days.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you feel better, and I know all of our listeners are also wishing you well.
Thank you so much. Definitely get your flu shot. I did, but you know, your girl still gets sick, so.
Yeah, it's not fun, and I feel so bad.
How have you been, though?
I've been good. Did you know today is Groundhog's Day?
Did you know today is Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
That's a little Groundhog Day joke for you.
Oh.
Please laugh.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
And that's just the whole rest of the episode is just us asking that question again and again and again. But apparently spring is coming. So
I was gonna Google that today when I realized it was February 2nd, and I forgot. Wow, what a great reveal.
Personally, I know that was such a good reveal. Which it's not Groundhog's Day on the day you're listening to this, but for us recording, it is. So that was my reveal. Spring is coming.
Also, happy February! Hooray!
Happy
the month
February.
of love, potentially the worst month of the year, depending on who you are.
The month of love and sadness.
That is so true.
And just like coldness.
It is cold. And it's a leap year, so we get an extra bonus day of February.
But who wants a bonus day of February? Not me.
I'm always really fascinated by people who are born on leap year, who are like turning 5 this year. Like, aww. I'm happy for you. Like,
oh yeah.
It's kind of wild, though, isn't that? Like, it just blows my mind that people can be born on a day that doesn't happen.
Doesn't exist.
For like 4 years.
It's kind of sad for their birthday, but also maybe even more exciting when their birthday comes around. It's just
so happy birthday,
special.
leap year babies. Also, it's Rare Disease Day on the 29th.
Yeah, that's true. That is a good part of February.
So, happy Rare Disease Day. Show your love and support by supporting your favorite podcast, but mostly if you want to monetarily support any cause, of course, please feel free to give to the HPS network, the Hermansky-Pudlak Syndrome Network. It is the rare disease that we share. Yes,
hpsnetwork.org if you would like to give to them.
That's right.
But yeah, no, life has been pretty good. Just, I feel like the winter, it's time to slow down. So I've been reading a lot, which when am I not? But I feel like in the winter especially.
You have been reading so much. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. I'm reading such a good book right now called The Unmaking of June Farrow. I don't know how to pronounce it because I'm reading it on Kindle. So I don't know if it's Farrow or Farrow, but it's really good so far. And I've just, I'm on Harry Potter book 7.
Wow.
The ending, and sad to see it go.
When did you start that? Was that November?
Yeah. Okay. I want to say either late October, early November. Yeah. So.
Sweet.
Yeah. And you've been baking up a storm.
Not this week, but before then, yes. And I'm working on my February flavors of the month for my little tart business at the cafe I sell to. So I'm pretty excited. I did a little poll on what people thought went best with chocolate, and honestly, it was pretty close between strawberry and raspberry, but strawberry won by 1 vote. So that's
good,
what we're doing.
Because that was my vote. Yay! I love strawberry and chocolate together so much.
It's gonna be so lovely. But
that is lovely.
I did want to get to this episode because we had been talking about, I mean, so if you followed us recently, or even for a long time, you've probably noticed that we've redone some of the episodes that, or like, I guess reprised is the theater term for it. Yes.
We Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, how perfect, right?
Yeah.
But like, we're not necessarily redoing them, but we're just kind of giving you guys an update because it's been like 3 years since we did this episode on personalities.
Yeah, almost 3.5
really?
years. Yeah, because wasn't it one of our first ones we did?
Was it? I don't even remember.
I don't know.
I believe you, but
I think it was early. It was early on in not early on in 2020, but early on in our podcasting career in 2020.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah, so
I still remember the title included like astrology fails, which we will get to.
We will get to. There are many, many different sectors of this personality thing. We're going to cover the Enneagram. We're going to cover the Myers-Briggs. We're going to cover our zodiac signs or astrology. Astrology? Did I get that right? I always get that wrong. Yes, good. Not astronomy,
Not
astrology. And we're going to cover our Harry Potter houses, of course. And you guys, I don't know if you OG listeners remember our last episode, but we have some changes and some updates.
We do have some changes, and a lot of them are mine. And honestly, no one is surprised.
Some of them are mine, though. I do have a change.
Some are yours.
I do have a change. Mm-hmm.
Actually, I feel like we should just start with that, especially since you've been reading Harry Potter and you're almost done with it.
We can start with Harry Potter.
I feel like it's a very millennial thing to be talking about. Are like Hogwarts houses, but hey, what can we say? We are who we are. Like
I wouldn't have it any other way.
No.
So let's recap. In our last episode, I said I'm a Ravenclaw and a Hufflepuff, and you're kind of more of a Gryffindor and a Slytherin, which is funny because we are complete opposites. But I think primarily, if I had to choose, I am a Ravenclaw, right? That's at least what I would want to be.
Yeah.
Value...
because that goes into it.
Yeah. I want you to tell the listeners, though, this is one of our big reveals. That this kind of came out of a heart-to-heart that we were having, actually.
It really was. So we were, like, going back and forth on voice memo, so... While Casey has been rereading the books, for spooky season, I decided to rewatch the movies. And... I was like, as I was watching, I was like, you know what? I for years, and I had done, it was a poll I had done on Facebook back in the day. So a lot of people had said that I could have been either, a Slytherin or a Gryffindor. And, I took the little Pottermore quiz like a billion times, and I ended up identifying as a Slytherin just because like they were really sharp, and they were really cunning, and they had a lot of ambition, and I identified with a lot of that. But I was starting to realize that it seemed like it was more, and not in a negative way, but a little bit more like interpersonally savvy, like interpersonally like cunning and shrewd, where if you wanted to be, not saying that they are, you could be really manipulative, and that is not something that I am. I feel like
no
in a career sense I can absolutely be really like ambitious and like go-gettery, but not in like a friendship interpersonal way. And I was just like, right. But I don't know that I'm like that. So I was like, Case, you got to be honest with me. Tell me, do you see me this way?
Right. I think Slytherins, a lot of people want to give Slytherins a bad rap because a lot of, if you don't know the story, a lot of the like villains or the dark wizards kind of come out of the Slytherin house, but not every Slytherin is bad. It's just kind of one of those personalities where you really could go either way depending on the path you're on, just because they are so ambitious and they do have such strong personalities that they could use it for bad or for good. I think at a glance, I can see why people might think you're a Slytherin, but as your friend, I really was like, no, I really think you are a Gryffindor.
And I think that I resisted this because, and we'll get to this because it's part of a theme here. I'm kind of a contrarian, and I didn't want to be the basic one that all of the heroes were in. It's just like, that just seemed like such the obvious choice, and I was like, no, I gotta be interesting. So.
Right. If you're not familiar, the main characters in the book, including Harry Potter himself, are Gryffindor. So most people our age, most millennials growing up would always say, I'm a Gryffindor, because they're the hero of the story.
Right. Who wouldn't want to be like the hero?
But also, I can see why people would deny it too and not want to be that, because, like you said, because they don't want to pick the obvious answer. Like, they want to be something different.
Right. Because there are 3 other entire houses, 2 of which don't get a lot of, like, face time, I guess.
Right. But when it comes down to it, I think I really can see you as a Gryffindor. And actually, as I've been reading the books, I see a lot of similarities between you and Harry Potter.
See, and I, like, so when I was reading these books, like, this is, like, of course this has to do something with Rare. So, like, I first read these books when I was, like, 17, and I was going through, like, the worst medical period of my life. And I very much related to Harry Potter because he was dealt, like, a really difficult hand. And it, like, you know, life was really kind of hard for him, and he's, like, a pretty strong character, and he has a strong will, and I felt very related to that, and he deals with a lot of trauma as I was going through a really traumatic moment reading these books, and so, yeah, I totally see it, and I didn't want to have, like, a like a superiority complex.
Yeah. I'm the main well, I've had people do that to me before, where, like, you know, when you're younger and you're playing a game and it's like, let's play Harry Potter. I'm Harry and you're and it's like, you know. But in this scenario, I do see a lot of you in Harry. I do. I think I mean, we'll get to Enneagram later, but I think y'all have a similar personality type in a lot of ways.
I can agree with that. And it was cool to also see, I mean, for Halloween, Casey dressed up as Luna Lovegood, and you're not a total crackpot. However, Luna is very, very, very much a very beloved character. People will, like, die for Luna, and she's really quirky, but she is extremely, like, empathetic. She's really intelligent. And she has her own convictions that she stands by. And I definitely see, like, a lot of... And she's being one of the only, like, Ravenclaws that are featured in the story, unfortunately.
Right.
She's kind of the one, like, measuring stick that we've got. I do see a lot of those really positive qualities in you. Because, like, when Harry feels like no one can understand him, like, here's Luna. And she can.
Yeah, I really do like Luna. I wouldn't say I relate to her as much as maybe some other fictional characters just in general, but she is a Ravenclaw, and I feel like if I'm a Ravenclaw, which I say that I am, she would be the type of Ravenclaw that I would
be like a good representative of
like the
house.
type of student that I would be, because she is smart, but not a bookworm like Hermione is per se.
Right.
So it's like, I could see how I would be a Luna type student at Hogwarts. So yeah, I totally can see that. But I also relate. One time I took a test of, like, who am I, and I got Lupin, and I was like, actually, that tracks.
He's my favorite.
It kind of tracks.
Favorite, like, defense against the dark arts character, like, teacher. I love him. He's so fatherly. Like, ugh.
Yeah, love him. So yeah, I think we've come to the come to that
conclusion
that we are Ravenclaw and Gryffindor, and we've changed it, because if you go back and listen to our episode from 3.5 years ago, you would have gotten some different results.
That is so true. That is so true. But we continue to learn about ourselves, and on that,
on we go. On we go.
Here we go.
Should we get into astrology, zodiac?
We should. Because we've both been separately, I mean, kind of talking about it with each other, but we've both been separately digging into this. So Casey is a Scorpio.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
So I, just to share some of my personal beliefs, I kind of do astrology more for fun. I don't follow it as a belief system. It's just kind of something I don't necessarily believe is fact, but I have fun looking at it, and that's just my view. But it's just kind of fun. It's kind of like a personality thing. And so I had an identity crisis, you guys. I had an identity crisis. So I'm a Scorpio. And Scorpios are always looked at as being secretive. They hold a grudge. They're angry, they're mean, they have a lot of like negative qualities and negative qualities that I didn't necessarily see in myself. I know I have negative qualities, but holding grudges and being secretive are not ones that I would associate with myself. However, the older I've gotten, I think I'm coming to terms, I'm like morphing into more of a Scorpio, and I'm coming to terms with it. I think some of the ways I do relate to being a Scorpio, I'm very passionate about like the things I believe in and the way I want things, and I can be stubborn and I can be kind of fiery in certain situations. Also, I'm kind of a spooky girly. She is
such a spooky girly.
I love like ghosts and vampires, and of course, like in a fictional way. Like I'm not like into witchcraft, but just like in a fictional way. I love that kind of stuff, and it like Scorpio is like right around Halloween, so it kind of is like that. It's that vibe, and when we enter Scorpio
to like mid-November,
and when we enter that Scorpio season, I do kind of feel alive. I feel like I thrive. I love like Halloween. I love all of that.
I mentioned this on another pod, but I started noticing a trend with like things that Casey would recommend to me as things that she really loved or were her favorites, and I was like, girl, like it was last year, and I started pointing it out, and I was like, I didn't realize like Casey's such a spooky girly.
Spooky girly.
All of the shows she loved like involve like magic of some kind.
Yes.
Usually some kind of like otherworldly creature, be it like a vampire, witch, whatever. Like just all of the things, and like like lives for that. I think.
Yep.
With the being secretive thing. I've actually read a little bit about it too, because I've been curious, and I've heard it described differently as, instead of being secretive, is like having a lot of walls up. And I can see that for you, especially with like people that you don't know well. Like you do have more walls up. You are more guarded and more private.
A little, yeah, I can see that.
You're not like. You're not hard to get to know, though. That's the thing.
Yeah. And it depends on the person. I think it depends on if I feel comfortable. Because for instance, with you, I felt comfortable like right away sharing a lot of things because of the context in which we met. But it really does depend on if I feel like threatened by a person or I feel a weird vibe from a person, then I'm not going to open up at all. Like, I agree. I do agree with you. I agree with you.
Right. And like, I think it's also cool to think of like the animals themselves. Like scorpions have a really like hard exterior, and like, but they're also water animals. Like they're another water sign.
And that's another thing. Like, sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, which I think goes really well with you. That's what
I was going to say is, like, you would think Scorpio might be like a fire sign because of the way it's described. It's actually a water sign. And when we talk about the 4 elements, which we could actually get to that later in this episode too, we did talk about the 4 elements in our previous episode. When we talk about the 4 elements, I have always been a water girly. Always. Like, it is
well, and you
very,
love the
very
water,
clear.
like, actually,
I physically actually love the water. I'm the happiest when I'm at the pool, at the lake, at the beach, but also, like, when it comes to, like, the healing power of water and how water can be gentle but also strong. Like,
water has memory.
Water, we have great memory. No,
yeah,
but
exactly.
Like, I've always liked water. So when I found out that Scorpio was a water sign too, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna I'm embracing my Scorpio side. Like, I'm ready. I'm a Scorpio. Here I am. I don't care if people think it's the mean. It always gets the worst. Like, whenever there's a list, it always gets like the mean reputation, and it makes me sad. But I'm here. I'm claiming it. I'm claiming it.
Yeah, as you should. It's really funny. I feel like I have always had the same but opposite reaction with my astrological sign. So I'm a Cancer. And like Cancer's always described as just like this super sensitive, romantic, like every time.
It feels like it should be switched.
It feels really like, does. And I've always
like you're a Scorpio and I'm a Cancer.
Right? I know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. But like, I was also doing some reading about like what is Cancer and what does that mean? And I thought it was really interesting because there were some things that I kind of related to where, like, you know, Cancer is a crab, also something that is like hard on the outside, which I feel like me as a person, I can probably give off more of an abrasive vibe, because I'm like a pretty upfront person. I'm not trying to be rude to people, but like, also if you start to make me mad, like you'll probably find out. But like, you know, I am that like soft inside, you know, yes. More like I aspire to be kind of that more like vulnerable, romantic, like, you know, Cancers have a hard time being vulnerable with people, and I think that like that's very true for me. There were also some things like in the article that I was reading. I think the article I was reading was from like Allure, like the beauty magazine. Mm-hmm. And something they were saying was like Cancers also really like to make like cozy niches for themselves. And I'm like, oh, wow. You know what? Every time people come to my house, that's kind of what they say. They're like, wow, what a cozy space you've created. Yeah. Like, what a unique, comforting space. And that makes me feel really good. Also, I think possibly the best part is that Scorpios and Cancers are some of the best friends.
I was gonna say, almost every time they give a list of like which signs should be friends, Scorpios and Cancers go together really, really well.
Yeah, like super well.
That. And no, I think I think both with Cancer and Scorpio, on the outside, it might not look like it fits us, but if you do a little digging, that's when you see that it can fit us. And you are very vulnerable with your people, with your inner circle. Right. So it's not that you can't feel or you're closed off. Like, I think we kind of have that in common in a way of what you were saying about me, of like, you're not going to just open up to anybody, but once you do, you are able to be vulnerable and emotional. Like, it just takes the right moment.
Right. We just need to be feeling safe with the people that we're doing it for.
Yes. I think we're similar in that way. And it is a water sign, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So how do you feel? Like, what do you feel pulled to in the 4 elements? Do you feel that?
I always felt like probably Earth was maybe the one that fit me the most. And I think that's what I said on like our previous episode too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. And I think, I don't know that like, I'm not afraid of water, but I'm not, like, I don't crave it the way that you do. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't, you know, crave the pool or the beach. But I think water is really interesting because it's very, I have a sign in my room. It's kind of like an affirmation. I've had it for had it for years. And it's actually from the Enneagram, which we can probably get into. Mm-hmm. But it was for like the Enneagram 8, but it's like I am the ocean, both soft and strong. Oh. And I feel like that kind of tracks, and that's what I think of when I think of water. It's like it's soft and gentle, but also very like strong, and it cuts away at stone and it erodes things. Like water is very powerful. So like I think that you can find strength and gentility in any element. But I do see how it could definitely work in the water.
Yeah, so I like that we're both the same element. Our signs are the same.
I know, that's so special.
That's fun.
Special.
So special.
Okay, do you want to talk about Enneagram since we just brought it up?
I would love to talk about Enneagram. Cass and I spend most of our time talking about the Enneagram.
Literally anytime we're watching a show, we're like, so what type do you think they are?
And we typically agree, and then sometimes even when we don't agree, we give each other the reasoning for why we stand our stance, and then we always end up agreeing. And I think that comes down to what's so fun about the Enneagram. So there are 9 types, and what's so fun about it is like, if you know all 9 types the way we do, you often can type people. And I know in real life, people are supposed to type themselves. Like, you're not really supposed to type other people. But it's really fun with fictional characters. We have a really great time.
And I think with fictional characters, what makes it so, like, the way that Enneagram is typed is based on, like, a core motivation. And in a fictional context, you can see very clearly, like, in the story, kind of an isolated view of a character, like how they are motivated in that story. So like to recap, I am an Enneagram type 8, which is the challenger, I think is what it's called, and motivated by self-preservation, but also, you know, kind of characterized by like a very strong and assertive type of person, will continue to like rise against an opposition, can be very like fiercely protective of people that they care about, but can also like struggle with like empathy and finding balance and being not super intense.
Yes, and I'm an Enneagram 2, which is the helper.
I think so.
My main motivation is to be loved, which a lot of times, if you're a healthy type 2, which we'll talk about that, there are healthy and unhealthy versions of these types. If you're a healthy 2, you often care for people and help people out of loving them and being empathetic. But if you're an unhealthy 2, sometimes you can love to be loved. Like you can give because you expect something in return. So that's something to like watch out for. If you're a 2, if you're a giver of like, why are you giving? And what are you doing that for? And
which is good for pretty much anyone to
kind of be aware of. Yeah, definitely. And there are wings. So there are 9 types, and your wing is on either side of your number. So if you're an Enneagram 3, then you could be a wing 2 or a wing 4. If you're an Enneagram 5, you could be a wing 4 or a wing 6, so on and so forth.
I'd recommend looking at the diagram because I think it's probably the easiest way to do it. But it is pretty much just like whatever's adjacent to you. So if you're a 1, it's like 2 and 9, right?
So I'm a wing 1, which I really, really relate to. Type 1 is very much an advocate. They are all about right and wrong. They want to do the right thing. They're kind of perfectionists. They make lists. They want to, that kind of thing. And I really relate to that. And then also, I don't need to get into the weeds too much, but it's a triangle. So you also go to a certain number in strength and a certain number in health and in not health.
I think stress.
Stress, yes. Health and stress. I go to a 4 in health, which completely tracks, and I go to an 8 in stress, which is Cassandra's number, which also kind of tracks. And I see a lot of myself in the 4 too, like very imaginative, idealistic, romanticizes the world kind of thing.
And the 4, like their motivation is to be themselves, to be seen and loved for like who they are as
which
like, an individual.
I can also relate to. So I feel like my number, it tracks. And what about you? Like, what's your wing?
Yeah.
Explain.
So my wing is the type 7, which is the enthusiast. Their motivation is to have fun. And I'm a pretty spontaneous person. I'm an extrovert, which, you know, you can be an introvert or extrovert for any of these.
Yeah.
But it does kind of track that I'm an extroverted 7. I love to try new things and go places and travel, and I love a little adventure. I love picking up a new hobby. Like, these are things that are really stimulating to me. And then my stress number is 5. Their motivation is pursuit of knowledge, I think.
Yeah, they're very intellectual.
Very, like, inward, but the way that gets negative is instead of, like, you know, being my forceful and enjoyable, like, fun-loving self, I kind of retreat and hide and disappear into, like, an inner world that I don't normally necessarily have. Until like I feel safe enough to come out. See that like personal safety thing. But in growth or in health or whatever, I am like Casey. I am a 2, which means that like I can, you know, I embrace like the love that people want to show me, and I can be open and vulnerable and empathetic with people that I really feel safe with, which I just kind of feel like all really makes sense.
Yeah, that all makes so much sense for you, and I love that even though we're really different, we have so much crossover with a lot of these, like the fact that like in stress and in growth we go to each other's numbers, and I think
and
that's
I
really
like
cool.
I see your 8 in stress. Like Casey is very decisive regularly, not even when she's under stress, like just as a person she's very intuitive and decisive, which we'll get to. But especially when things are going bad, like she will really like rise up and take charge when she's feeling kind of threatened, which is actually a pretty good survival technique.
I appreciate that. But and I totally see those two for you, especially because you're very like, you have that intellectual side, so I feel like the 5 fits you in stress of kind of like going a little more inward, since you are normally an extroverted person.
Yeah, and I really like seek I don't know, like I seek refuge in something very rational. Like my mom was always really fascinated by when my dad's mom passed away in like 2014. Wow, it's been almost 10 years. This year will be 10 years that she passed. I was in high school, and like, you know, I heard the news and it was really sudden, out of nowhere. She wasn't sick or anything. And honestly, like the first thing that I went to go do was to do my math. I just went to go do my math homework, and I was studying for the ACT, I think. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to go do more math because that makes sense.
Yeah. People deal with grief in a lot of
ways.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I like about the Enneagram the best, which we talked about on the previous episode, is that it's like so fluid. There's a lot of ways that you can be in different periods of your life. There's even within your own kind of main core personality trait or number, I guess, is levels of health. And so depending on like where you are mentally, you know, you can be really healthy or really unhealthy. It's like very choose your own adventure spectrum sliding scale kind of thing, which is what I like a lot about it.
Definitely. And I think I haven't always related to the 2, even though I have I have come to the conclusion that I am a 2. I just feel like sometimes the way it's portrayed on social media or the way people do it in funny videos is not always something I relate to. But what I find great about the Enneagram is like, it's really helped me understand my friends and the people in my life better. It's been actually a really good tool. When someone is doing something I don't agree with or something that's hurting my feelings, I really can actually look at their type and say, actually, that really tracks for just how they handle things.
Right.
And who they are. And it actually has helped me to understand people better. And I don't want to put people in boxes, but at the same time, it's less about personality traits and more about what motivates you in life and why you do the things you do.
And like, I think it for me also, I also really like it for that reason, because instead of wondering why people don't change or why people don't do things more like you, you can finally start saying like, no, that's them. And that's very true for how they would react. And I feel like me as someone who maybe has like empathy is more work for me than it is for someone like Casey where it comes like super naturally. Like that is really helpful because I'm like, oh, what are they doing? I don't like that. But no, I can give people more grace because that's who they are.
Yes, and you're very self-aware, and I think things like the Enneagram help us to be more self-aware, but like I appreciate that about your personality. You're a very self-aware person, so if you're doing something that you don't think is right, you can kind of look inward and say, actually, you can check yourself, whereas some people like are just unaware if they're having an issue. But you're able
is thanks to therapy and people telling me that honestly that's a mediocre way to be. Why are you being like that?
But you are, I would say, like you're a healthy 8.
Thank you. I would say that about you too, like, because I've known 2s that can be a little bit manipulative for love.
Yes. And I've known 8s that can be unhealthy. I can think of a few.
And you're not that at all. Like you.
No, and you're not either.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're watching TV shows and we'll be like, this character is a 6, but they're specifically a very unhealthy 6.
Yeah, right. We were just you know what? I finished we were talking about watching The Dragon Prince. I miss The Dragon Prince. Like I've been watching.
I love The Dragon Prince.
I miss The Dragon Prince.
People need to watch The Dragon Prince.
Good.
On Netflix.
But like one of the characters on that show is like we didn't know how to type her, and especially with like villains, sometimes they're so different than how they would be if they were healthier, and so like you're like, oh, what even are they? But like one of the more villain type characters is like a super unhealthy 6, and like you can see it, but after a while we went back and forth. It's like, what is it? What is it?
What is her Enneagram? And Cassandra's the one that said it's a 6, but it's a very unhealthy 6, and it just made so much sense.
Yeah, and 6s are like, I feel like we've almost named them all, but 6s are like really motivated by like loyalty and like being there for others,
safety
and security.
And also like security in their life, and like they're kind of anxious about like not being safe.
And like family is a huge like sense of security for like type 6s in general.
Correct.
Especially for this character. But
so if you watch The Dragon Prince, think about the Dragon Prince.
Finally, we wanted to get to Myers-Briggs because Casey reminded me about this the other day, and she was like, man, I love my Myers-Briggs type. I feel like I'm reading my diary, and I'm like, I
do.
Don't. But why don't you tell her about yours?
So Myers-Briggs, it's 16 personalities made up of 4 letters, and the letters are just, interchanged for each other. But my Myers-Briggs is INFJ. And if you want to look it up, I feel like it does describe me well. I typically, so the I stands for introverted. And so I'm very introverted. Yes. I love people. Don't get me wrong. But INFJ, they're introverted. They have a sense of justice. They are conscientious, they care for people, and they care about doing right and doing good. Kind of similar to... I feel like they have a lot of similarities to an Enneagram 1 and 4.
It sounds very Enneagram 1.
Because they're also kind of Enneagram 4-ish. They kind of feel like they don't always fit in. They have like a unique inner world and a very vivid imagination and creativity, but they're also kind of perfectionists and kind of play by the rules, and they follow the... Honestly, it's me. Like, I'm just saying. Yeah. It's honestly... It's who I am. If you read it, it's honestly
We were reading through some of these before this call, and like... Yeah, it's and it's described really well too. That it really paints a really lovely picture. I wish I was like that. I'm a little jealous. I'm like, would it be so nice to be like that altruist?
It makes me so sad because I wish you had a Myers. See, Cass doesn't relate as much to hers, and I wish she had one that like described her amazingness in a better way.
That's super sweet. But no, and I think that the way that it is, so like, let me see. I just like took this again. I'll get to that, but I think the letters are, either I or E for introverted or extroverted, N or S for either intuition, so like you make like kind of gut level decisions, you're kind of creative and open-minded, versus like observant. You like kind of go with the crowd, you tend to have a really like clear idea of what people are feeling by just being around. And then F or T, feeling or thinking. Do you make decisions with your heart or with your head? And then there's judging, and so I always thought it was perceiving, but when I took the test again,
I know, I think it's both.
It said something else, and
I know,
remember
I'm
what
confused because I always thought it was perceiving
prospecting, too, but I think is what it was.
Something like that.
Yeah, I do not know. I forgot the description of that because that happened a minute ago, and I low-key still have a fever. But
and you're sick, yeah.
But yeah, I guess like I don't know. But anyway, I took the test again. All that to say, and and I've gotten 2 different ones throughout my life. So like I've either been it's only the last letter that has changed. So I wish I could describe the difference, but I don't know. So I've gotten either E and T, and then either J or P. But I was like, when I was talking about it with Casey, and I was like, girl, I don't like this. And I was reading through the ENTJ one, and like, man, the negative traits are just so negative. Like, like they find ways to cram in multiple negative traits per bullet. There were some that were like 2 furs. It was like cold and ruthless as a bonus. But I took it again, and I've gotten this answer before, so I think it makes sense. I'm actually an ENTP, which
ENTP.
I still don't know fully what that means, but but kind of like tend to be like, let me see, like some of the positive traits are like knowledgeable, quick thinking, original, excellent brainstormers, charismatic, energetic. I feel like these words describe a lot of me.
They do. Yes.
And some of the weaknesses are also pretty true. Very argumentative. My mom's probably like, yeah. Can be insensitive, which I kind of get, because empathy again is more work for me, so I feel like I could be and have been insensitive. Intolerant, just like if you're not enough of a mental challenge, I'm bored, and I mean kind of like but like also this some like, I don't know if I have ADHD, full disclosure, but some ADHD vibes, like, can find it difficult to focus, dislike practical things like doing regular day stuff, like, I don't know, taking out the trash and normal day things. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense for me. So, in conclusion, I think I have found one that fits my life and personality a bit better, and is not as mean to me and doesn't make me feel sad.
Yeah, and I feel like it's only fair for me to read a few of my weaknesses because I just said some of the good stuff. Sensitive to criticism, reluctant to open up, depends, but yes. Perfectionistic, those kind of things. So I think that fits, but I just didn't want to be like saying just all the good traits. I feel like there are weaknesses. I was gonna say, our 4 letters, only one is the same. The second one.
Yeah.
Wow. What is the title? Mine is The Advocate, which tracks.
Yes. And that's actually cool because it's very close to your type 1 and type 2. What is the
You're right.
What is the cutesy little name that they give for that, the 2-wing one? Do you remember?
That's a great question. No, but I can look it up while you give
They all have cutesy
E?
little names. Mine is called, I'll check I get this right. The Debater. Which I think also makes sense. Like, when I had to do debates at school, I was really good at them.
Yeah, I actually was too. I won the mock trial in high school.
You did? That's so wild. I didn't know.
Yeah, I loved debating. I feel like that's my 8, coming out. My 2-wing one is The Companion.
The what?
The Companion.
Aww.
Interesting. No, I love debating. I love debating too. I can be stubborn when I can be passionate about a certain topic and not let it go. I don't let things go. I'm like,
no, and look, okay, so here's where I feel like I would see the opposite for us. Casey has gotten into it with people online. I will ignore people online.
Oh yeah.
But if people online say something that is really just blatantly ignorant, whether it's about disability or anything else that she feels really passionately about, she will tell them. Yeah, and I'm always really impressed by that.
I still to this day, I commented on a Helen Keller post recently. I got 110 likes though, but I was mad.
Oh my gosh.
I get really mad.
Yeah.
When I'm passionate about a certain belief, I will say it.
Yeah, and I'm not here to put you on blast either, because I'll do the same thing. I don't do it with strangers. However,
I shouldn't.
However, I do kind of do it when it's the context is right, even if they are strangers. For example, I'm finishing my master's and I'm in a required course on accessibility, which is that's my field. And also I'm disabled, and so I know a lot about the space from my own personal experience. And so we did this assignment where people had to use a screen reader for the first time, and I was kind of bracing myself for some of the things people were going to post, because I was I feel like this might be a little bit ableist. And some of them were, I think people meant well, but there were some that I did reply to, and I was like, look, I would love to correct your assumptions on disability, because it's not, the problem isn't with the tool, the problem is with what we're, providing for the tool to work. Like what we've talked about, the social model of disability, is the problem really our disability, or is the problem that we're in a world that doesn't work with our disability well? Right. So anyway, that's my small rant.
Yeah, no, I think that just shows that we're so different, but we have a lot of crossover. Mm-hmm. I think we can both be really strong-willed in different ways.
I think that
it's very interesting.
All of this whole personality episode was just complete crossover.
Yeah.
Even in your Ravenclaw, I love learning. I have a very intellectual side, but I don't know that I necessarily completely fit into what that normally is. And then you have a lot of
and then even Gryffindor, I can be the thing with Gryffindor is, like, I could be a brave hero if I, like, really needed to be. If I was really pushed to do it, I could. I feel like you go more toward that side just naturally than I do. But if I was in a situation where I had to stand up for someone, or I felt like I, like, had to do it for, like, the good of the world or whatever.
Right, or, like, for someone that you really cared about, like, you absolutely would.
I'm not.
You're not a
like,
coward.
I am. No, I'm not a coward, but I am more anxious than you are, just in general.
That is
like,
true.
As far as, like, I'm more cautious than you are, too.
That's also very true. I'm not. And because I am not risk averse.
You're not very cautious. I am. So I feel like me being cautious, I wouldn't be in Gryffindor first, but I have some of those qualities of, like, wanting to be the good side or whatever, you know. Like,
like we're both water signs. We both can be cautious of newer people and opening ourselves up to them. Like, it's a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
But we need each other for, like, those differences too. Like,
we both are very decisive.
We're so decisive.
We're both very decisive.
And that was something that your Myers-Briggs thing said also, that you really value, that it, like, you are very decisive, which I feel like a lot of times with, like, maybe an Enneagram too, it wouldn't say something like that. But you have like a huge gut check. Like, you know if the vibes are off, like, instantly.
Yeah, and that's the intuition too and we both have that. We both are the in, so, you know, it's pretty cool.
It's fun,
pretty cool.
And I think basically all of that goes to show that we're just besties.
Well, like, also, even the fact that we're both really into this is funny, because I feel like not everyone even cares about personality types, like, whatsoever. Like, I'll be like, "What's your type?" And they're like, "What? I don't care."
Yeah. I've totally brought this up to people, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, play it down. I really want to know about them, but play it down. I'm like, so do you like personality tests? And they're like, not really. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I know. And so the fact that we're both even, like, talking for an hour, and we even talk about this outside of the podcast too, that's also it's a personality trait to be into personality tests. I think we enjoy understanding ourselves and therefore understanding others better. Like, I think we're self-aware as much as we can be.
I think,
like, not
so.
Everyone is fully self-aware, but, like, we try to, like, read the room and read ourselves. And,
right. And we, like you had said about the Enneagram, like, we like to understand people that we care about, like, our friends and family, and try to meet their needs in a way that makes sense, like, to them specifically.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Well, we would love to hear about anyone else's personalities. If you want to sound off in our Insta post on this episode,
please tell us.
But on that note, I'm going to go and sleep.
Yeah. You need some sleep. I think same. That sounds nice.
Yeah, right?
So, happy February to you all, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
And did you know it's Groundhog Day?
Yeah, wow. I didn't know.
It's Groundhog Day. That's crazy.
Wow. It's Groundhog Day.
Anyway. We'll see you in
Love that.
2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye. I can't do it.
Oh, you can't. Your voice.